Coach Chahrouri here with Steve Palazzolo, the PFF Game of the Week. It features two true blue bloods in USC and Texas, and it is brought to you by Eckrich Smoked Sausage, the official smoked sausage and deli meat of the USC Trojans. If you're at the game, by the way, stay around for halftime. There's going to be a fun little $1 million challenge, and the football on the field should be pretty interesting as well. As we talk about, I think every week, it starts at the quarterback position. And here, there's a really interesting matchup and kind of interesting parallel between both quarterbacks.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities between Sam Ehlinger at Texas, JT Daniels at USC. And when we break down quarterback play, there's always a big discrepancy between quarterbacks in a clean pocket versus under pressure. But it's even more extreme so far this season with Ehlinger and Daniels. Ehlinger, both guys really struggled. Ehlinger, 15.1 passer rating under pressure so far. And Daniels, a 2.8 passer rating so far under pressure. Only 1 of 11 passing. So those numbers probably not going to stay that bad the entire season. But one of those guys needs to step up under pressure. We saw Ehlinger make the game-ending interception against Maryland in Week 1. We saw Daniel struggle a little bit last week when pressured against Stanford. One of those guys needs to step up and make plays. And also, of course, the offensive lines just really need to protect them because that play from a clean pocket is just so important.
Yeah, and we saw with Daniels, even in Week 1, when he didn't hurt his hand, right? He had that kind of hurt hand at the beginning of the Stanford game. Maybe that contributed to some of it.
Yeah.
But we saw that in Week 1 as well. He was dynamite from a clean pocket and really struggled under pressure. And what we know is that week to week and season to season, quarterbacks are more consistent from a clean pocket. That makes sense, right? So you want to give them as many as possible. Neither guy has been pressured particularly often, both under 30%. But when they're struggling that badly, just 1 or 2 more dropbacks is going to make a big difference. So let's go to the offensive and defensive lines. Let's start with the Texas O-line versus the USC pass rush, where I think the most interesting matchups lie. Porter Gustin going against a couple of great tackles.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's Porter Gustin. You got Christian Rector as well.
Yep.
So 2 guys at USC who are really getting after the quarterback. We talked about Gustin here last week and how he looks powerful, looks explosive, a freak athlete. So both of those guys coming off the edge against Calvin Anderson at for the Rice transfer, who said, look, I've had a pretty good career at Rice, but I'm a grad transfer. I'm going to Texas. I'm going to step up my game. He was a free agent this offseason, and he's lived up to the hype so far through 2 games. Pass block grade over 90. And then Samuel Cosme, a little different story, a true freshman playing right tackle for Texas, and one of the best true freshmen in the country so far this year. He's been excellent in pass protection. So when you talk about Sam Ehlinger's stats under pressure, how important is Calvin Anderson and Samuel Cosme to keeping him clean against Porter Gustin and Christian Rector? One of the biggest matchups of the entire game.
Yeah, it'll be important to watch the quarterback, but also right in front of him as well.
USC Notre Dame's on the schedule this year.
Is it? Old school rivalry. I love calling games at the Coliseum.
If I hit that throw, I'd jump on that horse.
Traveler?
Yeah, man, that big old beautiful white horse they got.
Man, they're not going to let you ride Traveler.
If I win $1 million, they might.
Come on.
Enter at EckridgeFootball.com for your chance to win $1 million at the USC Notre Dame game.
Fight on, baby.
And then when you flip it onto the other side, you've got Chuma Edoga, who has been thou shalt not pass Chuma Edoga thus far this season. And there's a couple of Texas pass rushers, maybe one in particular, who will need to step up here.
Yeah, that's Charles Omenihu. He's had 4 pressures this year, 3 of which have come against right tackles like Edoga. He needs one of those 3 to 5 type pressure games. That's generally a very good game for an edge defender, especially if you're talking about one-on-one victories. So he'll have to step up his game a little bit. And like you said, those handful of passes throughout the game, sometimes that pressure forces an interception, forces a key incompletion. That is going to be crucial. So I'm looking for Omenihu against Edoga as one of the biggest matchups when USC has the ball.
All right, so we've talked about the trenches. There's some exciting matchups on the outside as well, and in the slot. And I think the one in the slot might be the most interesting, with Texas wide receiver Lil Jordan Humphrey, who's 2nd in the Big 12 in yards per route run out of the slot, and he's matching up with Ajane Harris, who has been pretty darn good in his own right when covering the slot.
Yeah, it's a great matchup of 2 good players. When you talk about Lil Jordan Humphrey, he is just, it's one of those slot receivers that's a little different. We talk about A.J. Brown over at Ole Miss. They have good size, and they got this vertical speed, and you could see Humphrey getting down the field last week against Tulsa, creating big plays. Harris, we'll see how many one-on-one true matchups he has, because USC will mix up man and zone, but I think it's going to be a very key matchup because Harris has been one of the best defenders in the back seven for USC. And Humphrey, we've already seen what Texas is trying to do to get the ball in his hands. He's taken a couple wildcat snaps, and they featured him from the slot, like I said, in that vertical game. So if Texas is trying to create big plays, Humphrey's been one of the guys. And if USC is trying to avoid big plays, it's Harris who's going to have to shut him down.
Yeah, Harris, just below a 50% catch rate allowed in the slot. And we've seen this in college and at the NFL. The slot is no longer a dink and dunk only position, right? They're going downfield. That's where a lot of big plays are happening. So that'll be crucial to watch. If there's one other matchup that maybe it's just a couple of plays here or there, but in a close game, that can be the difference. What is it in your mind?
Well, I think if you're looking from a scheme standpoint, this is one. I'm just going to see if USC can take advantage of it. It's Malcolm Roach, who's an edge defender / linebacker in Texas's scheme. He's 270 pounds, and he's dropped into coverage 36 times in 2 games. You don't see 270-pounders dropping into coverage all that much. He's been reasonable so far, 64.6 grade. That's solid. However, with guys like Stephen Carr coming out of the USC backfield, who we've highlighted here as just a matchup weapon, he's got great speed. I want to see if USC offensively can potentially exploit that matchup, run him on some wheel routes, run him on some option routes underneath, because Stephen Carr is such a good receiver. Roach at 270 pounds, even if he's a good 270-pounder in coverage, that's a mismatch that USC could potentially exploit in the pass game.
Look, Steve, if we were out there playing, I'm not putting you on the most dynamic halfback. That's not your role. I think you
I
can
could handle it. I'm pushing 290 and I could handle it, but I got some questions about Malcolm Roach.
I'm just saying you're probably better served in other areas, and I want to optimize what you bring to the table.
I'll rush the passer. That's fine.
All right, this should be a really interesting one. I mean, USC, Texas, it really doesn't get better than that. We, of course, all remember the amazing games they've played in the past. Hopefully, this one lives up to it. A new generation for both teams coming forward. So that wraps up the USC breakdown for this week, the game of the week. It'll be exciting. Brought to you, of course, by Eckrich, the official smoked sausage and deli meat of the USC Trojans. Do not forget to pick up Eckrich smoked sausage at your local grocery store for your tailgate or home gate, whichever one you're feeling this week, and visit EckrichFootball.com for great game day recipes and to enter the season-long $1 million challenge.